Okay, had I don't know what number of practice it is, but majority scrimmage today. Had a lot, basically evaluate. I don't know, we ran maybe 90 some plays, and I think we got some good stuff on tape to evaluate. A lot of things to work on, of course, but I think the effort was pretty good. We're getting there. It's still not where it needs to be, and I think it's probably a misunderstanding. I think I didn't read it. Somebody got attention that I was unhappy with the roster or something. I'm unhappy with the depth, I guess, but I think every coach is probably unhappy with their depth at this point in the spring. But I like a lot of the guys' effort, and some of the guys have continued to get better. But we do got to increase our competition at most of our positions, and I hope it comes from a lot of guys within, but inevitably it's probably going to come from a few spots from guys that aren't here yet.
Coach, now that you're pretty deep into this, some areas that you thought, well, I don't know how good we're going to be in, but you've been pleasantly surprised this spring. You've talked about quarterback, but are there others as well?
Yeah, I think obviously with only two starters back, there's question marks because you just don't know. Even if they played at the other schools, wherever they were at, the O-line is like all the starters were gone, and I think three of the backups are gone, and so none of those guys have played. So that's a whole new thing, and so Coach McNeil, Coach Dressler, and them probably got the hardest job just getting those guys. And it's, I still think we need, I don't know if we're deep enough and have the competition we have yet, but I think they're trying hard, and they've made progress. But anytime you have that at that position, a lot of inexperience, it makes you a little bit nervous. But it'll happen.
Now that you have a scrimmage, you talked the other day about there's some guys you still want to see more competitiveness from.
Right.
Did that change when you get into a scrimmage? Because that could pick it up for some guys, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and that was the purpose behind the scrimmage, is see. But let me watch the guys in particular I was thinking about when I talked about that. I probably need to watch the film today or tomorrow and see if that's progressed, because there were a couple that were really important. This is not the end all be all, but there's a couple that was really important for today and next week as far as their status is concerned, to see if they took another step. And I don't know, it looked like maybe a little bit today, but until I watch the film, I don't know.
And that could make a difference for some guys, either a spot.
Sure, yeah. And I think you have to be honest with your players and tell them where they stand all the time. That's at the end of the spring. Where they're at on the depth. We'll tell, like I said, we call these meeting rooms the truth rooms. We'll tell them where they're at in the depth chart. We'll tell them what we think they need to work on and what they're good at. And it's not all negative, but there's also a lot of guys that, boy, you did a great job this spring. You showed that we, but you're still going against each other, right? And so it's still hard to evaluate because we're not going against an outside team or something like that.
What are you looking for in your starting quarterback, personality-wise and on the field?
I don't know if I've ever worried about personality. It's not like a beauty pageant. Then they have pick somebody and it's here in the winner of Miss America, and then Miss Congeniality. It's Congeniality had a good personality. Run the offense, make good plays, and you could be a loner. Usually not quarterbacks aren't loners though. I'm being a smart ass here, but you want somebody to lead the team, but everybody always worries about leadership during practice. That's what coaches are there for. We're supposed to be leading it in practice. During a scrimmage when the coaches aren't on the field, but I'm still on the field. But games when the coaches aren't around in the summer times or locker rooms, that's when you hope to have some leadership. The best leadership is a earned leadership from the standpoint is what you're doing. I think a lot of times the best leaders are the guys that somebody will go to if they're not sure what to do on a play, and you tell them. You know what I mean? It's not somebody that's rah, jump on them, because they screwed up or whatever. It's the guy that said, hey, this is what you do on this play, and this is what you do on that play. So I say that because it's harder now for the quarterbacks to be that guy because they're still learning. But they all, by the end of the summer, I really think all of the attitudes of the quarterbacks are really good, and they all want to be good, and they all want to learn the system. And right now, they're just learning about what they're doing. I think by the end of the summer, Rhett has more time with them. All of them will be able to be almost an extension of the coaching staff. That's what I want. They'd kind of be an extension of us.
Hey, Rich, walk us through the calendar in your head. So spring ball's over next Saturday. When will you tell your players who's on the roster? And then once you get to the portal, how long of a time period do you see that lasting until you've got your roster going into summer conditioning?
Yeah, the reason we ended spring on the 5th, I was going to end it on the 12th, is so we had a week of meetings with our players to kind of let them where they're at. So from if the scrimmage is on the 5th, starting on the 7th through the next 5 days, we'll have meetings with our players, kind of tell them where they're at. Some of them, what their status might be a little shaky going through the summer. We don't have to determine the 105 until the week of the first game, but most of them will tell them where they're at, give them an opportunity if we suggest they go in the portal, that they have time to get in the portal. That opens up, the 15th? Yeah, 15th or 16th, and when it opens, and so they'll know where they need to go in the portal so they can find a place. And then some of them, frankly, are going to be really hard, as I mentioned, because they're doing everything right. They're competing and all that. We just don't have room at that spot or that position to keep them, and that's why I think it's crazy that you got to cut them down. I mean, why don't we go 120, then 115, then 110, then get to 105 in the fourth year from now or something? But
You could have more than 105 here during the summer.
Right.
It's not until the end.
Yeah, you don't have to have till then. So we'll run our 105. Everybody's eligible, grades are good, no problems, anything by July. If the rev share thing goes as they think it'll be in July, we need to have in my mind, our 105 rosters done in July.
How does the summer work? You can do team stuff without the ball, is that right?
No, you can do stuff with the ball.
You can do the ball
can't
now.
do team stuff, but you can do individual stuff with the ball.
How does the mechanics of that work out when you're in the summertime with those?
Yeah, it's a lot better than before when you couldn't even ask your strength coach, hey, how's so-and-so doing? He couldn't even tell you, isn't that funny how everything is kind of shifted? Like you can give a bagel but not cream cheese. Whatever. So silly. So we'll have some time to work with our guys in June. Now, July is kind of the coaches a little bit of time off, vacation. They need a break from us, and we need a break from them. And so the few weeks in July before camp starts, it'll be the strength staff and then the players. And that's when the quarterbacks or whoever will have a little bit of a challenge of leadership to get that going. But it's a little bit different because you can have the month of June to kind of teach and do that route. And we, obviously conditioning is such a factor. Our guys are getting in spring ball shape, but we're a whole long ways from being in game shape. But we're a whole long ways from playing right now too.
What is your mentality? Because this is pretty common in today's day and age, even in college football. Garrett Green, who was here, he had his own kind of quarterback coach. Once you release them, the break when you're not with them, if a quarterback would work with somebody that's not a part of WVU, have their own coach, do you have a problem with that? Do you want to talk to that coach? What's your thoughts on that?
Fair question. Really, I think some guys don't like it, whatever. As long as they're working on football, I don't really care. Now, like some of our guys have their own quarterback coach. That's a good thing because they're working on football. What I want them to do, or the guy that's working with them back home, is to help them do our stuff. Like everybody has, particularly shotgun. You have different type of drops in shotgun. Everybody just thinks, well, you just catch a ball and there's different footwork involved in shotgun timing, whether it's quick game, play action, drop back passing. There's different timing in shotgun offenses than some others. And so our timing is kind of set. So our guys, hopefully their quarterback trainers will help them develop the skills that correlate to what we're doing. Now that our quarterbacks have been in the spring, they'll be able to tell their quarterback coach, these are the things that we want to work on. But I like if they got a trainer and a guy's going to work with them, they're working on football. It's better than other things they could be doing.
You mentioned over and over evaluation. When the spring ends, what do you evaluate? How does that process go? I mean, you sit down with Phil and talk.
Pretty similar. Now with the video technology you have, Bob, you can, they're creating it now, a cut up of every player has an individual cut up of maybe one-on-one drills, 7-on-7 drills, live team drills, good, bad, and indifferent, and how many plays there is, 35, 40 plays. And so it'll be that cut up will kind of be that snapshot of what he's done on the field while we're here. And some of the coaches are going to meet with our players and watch that. But all of us as coaches will be evaluating those individual cut-ups. In fact, that's going to start next week. We've got to get that done next week. So every quarterback we have, we'll have that cut up in there, and I'll watch it with the whole staff, with the whole coaching staff, and then give our thoughts on it, to kind of come up with where those guys are on the depth chart. We'll tell them where they're at. And then if it's a guy that's maybe on the edge, whatever, we've got to make a decision by watching that. I think because I don't want the decision to be made just on, he's a good guy, or he's, they all got to be good students or good guys, but this has got to be a football type of decision based on those, what we've seen every day, and then also what we see on those cut-ups.
Rich, about 10 true freshmen enrolled in January.
Is that what the number is?
It's something in that range.
Yeah.
Anybody that's jumped at it, you go, hey, they can help us right away, or
Yeah, and I'll tell you, but then if I tell you, then somebody's going to tamper and try to get them.
True. But does it look like a good group overall? People that you're happy that you got?
Yeah, I'm a little bit, like I said, I might seem like trying to be a hard guy, whatever. I mean, I like all these guys. And there's some of them that really frustrate me because I think they kind of like football, not love it, and they could be a little tougher, and they're real hard, they're being hard to coach because they make the same mistake over and over again. But there's not one guy that I'm like, this guy's I can't wait for him to leave. There's not one of those. And I've always been places where that guy is just totally into himself. He hasn't cared nothing about our program, nothing about West Virginia. We don't have those, so that's a good thing. The problem is you got to be good enough to win with, right? We got to be good at football. And the freshman class, some of them, got a long ways to go, but there's a couple of them I think going to have great careers here. I'm just, like I say, you think I'm BSing you. I hate not to be able to praise them, but Tuesday, when's the first game?
August 30th.
30, yeah. Stay tuned to the 30th, and then I know who's on 9/13, but yeah.
Last year, Jack State, you kind of flipped that roster around and won a championship. You're not really, it's not to that degree this year, but what has to go right to do that?
No, it's more. We're flipping. We got more newcomers here than we did at Jack State. Last year, Jack State, I think it was 60 guys, or 61 out of 120 or 125. We're already at 60 now, and there's 20 more. So it's going to be out of it. So I would say out of the 105, it might be 70.
What went right for you last year? What has to go right to be able to do that?
I remember when we started off slow last year, I was a little bit perplexed because it didn't reflect, I thought, what I had seen in camp and a little bit what I seen in the summer. I thought, man, I think we're going to be okay. And then we started off bad. I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? And it just, some of it was some of those new guys were still, I don't know, get used to the system and learn, and then once they got it and went on a roll, and it was a completely different team as we went forward. But I saw signs of it being okay in camp, and so when we started off so bad, I was a little bit confused. I can't do that. I don't afford to do that here. So I'm trying to learn from that, I guess. So I actually, to that point, I'm looking, okay, what did I do last summer? A lot of coaches do what you did last year, you do the same. They get in the same habit, and I'm like, okay, but that wasn't a good start. So maybe I need to look at what can I do better, or what can we do better so we don't have that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So hell, I don't want to start off 0-3. Are you kidding me? So, I've kept all my notes, and so I know what we did, and I'm like, okay, I've got to really, I'm not done with it, but I'm gonna deep dive. Like, okay, maybe this wasn't the best way to do it, or maybe this wasn't. And so that's the benefit experience, right? I've done it 28 years. This is 28th year as a head coach. If there are things I could do better than last year, I sure as heck better do it. And that's my job.
So you addressed this a little bit on Thursday. In today's, especially the portal world, can you have a developmental program where you have 10 guys that are just, you put in the weight room and you don't worry about them for a year or two. Can you do that anymore, or is that those days gone?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, that's a thing that's different now, right? You bring in 25 freshmen and probably 4 or 5 may play. The rest are going to redshirt and develop, whatever. I don't think you do that as many, but there's probably 6 to 10 freshmen that we have. I think they're going to be pretty good players. They just got to get a little stronger, mature a little bit. But you can't afford to do 25 of them, But that being said, sometimes these transfer portal guys need to be developed too. They just either they're a different position or a different program. So what we do is different in a lot of ways, and so there's nobody we bring in that's not adjusting in some way, because we do things different around here. You know what I mean? So there could be a guy that was a 3-year starter in a SEC school, and he's going to come here, and it's going to take some time for him to learn the way we do stuff.
So you've told this story before, but how did you find a Tucker County kid who can't run, who runs a option attack for you?
Yeah, well, the truth was when this offense first started, it was about 70% pass and 30% run, and about 1% quarterback run. You know what I'm saying? You got to go with what you got. And so we didn't really run the zone read or counter read toss with the quarterback in Glenville State. We'd run a draw, and they'd be dropping 9 guys, and you'd fall forward for 5 yards. But he could throw the piss out of it. And, it wasn't a coverage you're going to throw at, knowing that you didn't know what coverage it was and who was going to be open and what the route package was. And it was really simple then. But it wasn't really simple because of Jed Drenning. It was simple because those other dudes, we didn't want to make it too complicated. We probably hindered his, but we were really, really good at what we did, and he was really good at throwing and pick up. Coverage route-wise, like I said, he was really smart and smart. But we didn't even run his own read then, and part of a coach's thing is evaluate ability, what they can and can't do well. When you could throw the heck out of it and you're real smart, well, they just throw the heck out of it. When you're slower than the coach, hand the ball to that guy.
So when does zone read start then?
It really started at Tulane. That's what it really started with Sean King. And Sean wasn't fast, but Sean was a 4.7 guy. And we didn't and Sean could throw it too, but the zone read start, and really it wasn't just the quarterback. I teased it was Jed. It was really the other guys around the offensive line and stuff like that. That we, when you got a little more athletic offensive line and stuff like that at Tulane, we started doing it then. And then, either I inherited one or got one. But I do brag. I think there was a graphic one time that every quarterback I've had for at least 2 years as a starter has been Player of the Year in their league. Jed was the first one to do that, but then it was Sean King, Woody Dantzler, Rasheed, Pat, Denard Robinson, Khalil Tate, and then this was just one year for Tyler Huff. So if that's the goal, quarterbacks, you hear, you can't just be a starter. Dang it, you got to be an all-conference guy. That's it.